the interview will ask questions related to your project and
I am Sahil Manyar, founder of Preplaced and also your host for today's video. In today's session, we are going to cover a detailed interview preparation roadmap, specifically targeting SW2, SW3 roles at Google. To do this, we have along with us Gaurav Jha, who is currently working as an SWE3 engineer at Google and also an active mentor at Preplaced, helping people guide and prepare for their dream interviews. So, welcome, Gaurav. Thanks for taking out time on a Sunday evening.
thanks Sahil for that introduction. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, great. So before we start creating the timeline and give out a detailed roadmap to all the viewers, let me just give a structure of how we are going to go about it. So this session will be like sort of a very similar to one-on-one planning sessions that we generally have at Preplace. So we'll first start with your career journey, so people have an idea of what all different companies you have worked in. Then we will go into interview process and what topics, expectations are there for SW2 and 3 roles at Google. And then going ahead, we will be creating a timeline and roadmap as to your suggestions as to how people should approach their preparation. Following which we can discuss on resume and application process to land interviews at top companies, and followed by final tips and things. So that is what the structure will follow. So let's get started. Gaurav, so can you tell everyone watching this video your career journey and how has been your sort of learning curve and progression so far?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I completed my BTech in 2019. So I studied in a kind of tier three kind of college. So it is called the Harcourt Butler Technical University. It is in Kanpur. So it is a state level college. So you have to clear the state level exam in order to get admission to it.
Okay.
Basically, the thing is that the placement opportunities were the on-campus placement opportunities were kind of limited. So the best company that we had for the on-campus was Samsung.
Okay.
I fortunately was able to clear the interviews for the Samsung Bangalore, and I could get into it. So I started my professional journey with the Samsung Bangalore. So there, basically, I worked more in the network domain. So basically, my team used to take care of the softwares that were used in the telecom networks in the field of 4G and 5G. So that work was definitely good, but that work was more towards the very low level of computers. So I thought of building more, shifting towards such a role in which I am building more of an application developer kind of role. So that's when I thought of switching from Samsung, and I was able to get interviews with Flipkart, and fortunately again I was able to clear it, and I then got into the Flipkart, and there the role that I was assigned was the SD1. So yeah, there I worked in the team that managed the softwares for the backend of the Flipkart. Backend, by backend I simply mean the warehouses and the last mile delivery teams. So we used to build the softwares for those people. So the work was good there. I learned a lot of things in Flipkart. So it was a Java-based work, mostly in Spring Boot and the relational databases and the general cloud-related things. So I learned a lot of things over there. And after that, the role was good, the learnings were good, and everything was good. But there was a bit of unsatisfaction for me in the field of compensation. So I just thought that maybe at the similar level of experience, my compensation can be quite better than this, even up to double of this. So that's when I thought of just trying to switch again.
Hmm.
I was not that much focused that okay, I have to go to this company or I have to go to this domain. But this
Hmm.
time it was more of an exploration kind of thing, like what kind of compensation is there in the market and what I can get.
Hmm.
And then I was so then I interviewed with a couple of companies, and so I was able to get multiple offers, including from Microsoft, LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and a couple of startups, and most importantly, the Google.
Hmm.
So I chose Google above all of them. So yeah, so in Google, basically, currently I'm working in a team which is called Cloud Spanner. So
Hmm.
this team basically works on a database of Google. That database is called Spanner.
Hmm.
So we work on adding features to that database. So work here is not definitely equal to the backend development, but
Hmm.
it is more towards like how databases work and how do we create like interfaces for connecting clients to the database and all. So that is the work here,
Hmm.
and so far I'm liking the work at Google, and compensation is also good. So yeah, that has been my journey in brief.
Great. That is quite some journey, I would say, starting from a tier three college and going and cracking like top companies that you mentioned, even Flipkart, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and Google. So that's quite some journey, and I think most of the people watching this video we would have a dream something like that to crack. Okay, so Gaurav, let's go into the main part of the video, right? So the interview process and creating the strategy roadmap for people. So specifically targeted for people, let's say, willing to go into roles of either SD1, SD2, or SWE2 or FWE3 that we call at Google. Uh,
Mhm.
what is the general interview process like? And what is the topics or expectations which are required for that role?
Yeah. So I would say that the expectations are pretty straightforward, I would say. So it's all about the data structures and algorithms.
Hmm.
So basically for SW1 and SW3, SW2 and SW3, basically you will have 4 to 5 rounds depending on like at what stage you are interviewing. For example, there is a screening round in the beginning, and then there is a telephonic round also. But for my case, I already had an offer, so those were skipped, and I had 4 rounds only. So you
Hmm.
can have 5 or maybe in some cases 6 rounds also.
Hmm.
So as far as I have heard and I have experienced, for the SW2 role, it is all about the DSLU. You will have 3 technical rounds, and all of them will be related to the data structures and algorithms.
Hmm.
And there will be one other googliness round. So in
Hmm.
that googliness round, what the interviewer will try to check is whether you have the rates that they look into a Googler or not. So basically, like whether you in Amazon there is some leadership principles kind of thing. So it is a little bit similar to that. So the interviewer will ask questions related to your project and like some behavioral questions like what were your contribution to this project, and some hypothetical questions also like maybe he might give you some situation that you're working in project and this has happened, and how will you tackle this situation. So that is about the googliness round, and I will say that googliness round is so basically if you are working well in your current organization and working according to the expectations, googliness round would be more like a general discussion between you and the interviewer.
Hmm.
The main preparation you have to do will be for the technical rounds, where you will be asked the DSA problems.
Hmm.
And for the SW3 rules also, you will be getting like there can be 4 or 3 technical interviews, and
Hmm.
all of them are restricted to the DSA only. In
Hmm.
some of the cases, I have heard that system design is also asked in one of the round, but that is when the candidate opts for it.
Okay.
So if you want, then you can go for the system design. And in some cases, when the candidate has higher experience,
Hmm.
then maybe one of the round is system design. But if you have 3 4 years of experience, then
Hmm.
you need not to worry about system design. You can totally focus on the DSA. Now
Hmm.
coming to the DSA, what happens is like all the rounds in Google are 45 minutes long, and in 45 minutes, the interviewer might expect you to solve one, two, or three questions depending totally upon him or her. So
Hmm.
basically, they come up with a target that they have to ask these two questions or maybe this one question only. So you can expect that the questions that they will ask will totally consume the 45 minutes of time. So if they are asking one question, that will be a bit on the difficult side. And if they are asking two questions, they will be more medium level questions so
Hmm.
that you can zoom.
Hmm.
And now coming to the difficulty, basically like the difficulty can range from like very easy questions to like very hard questions. For example, like there was one of the problems in my interview that I couldn't find the most optimal solution even till now.
Hmm.
So the thing is that there can be really hard questions, but
Hmm.
there is also a good thing that which is I think kind of quite specific to Google is that they look more into your thought process rather than the output that you have
Hmm.
generated during the interview. For example, in one of the round, I was given one question and I was able to give one solution, and I quoted that solution and all. And in the end, I asked the interviewer whether there exists a more optimal solution than this or not. So
Hmm.
he simply mentioned that yeah, there exists a more optimal solution than that. But then also he kept on explaining that the idea was not to go to that solution, but to see that how you are thinking for this problem.
Hmm.
So it is more about your real problem solving rather than just focusing on the solution that you give.
Hmm.
So so that is how the interviews go. And if there are medium questions, then the expectations would definitely be that you are able to tell the most optimal solution and also write the code for it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and the difference between SW2 and SW3 are more towards like I mean, I can explain it in this way that you are allowed to do some of the mistakes in SW2 interviews, but
Hmm.
if you are appearing for the SW3 interviews, it need to go completely perfect. So you are
Hmm.
able to tell a kind of good solution. Your thought process is good, and you are communicating your thoughts well, and also able to write the code in proper manner. While
Hmm.
in SWT2 interviews, basically if there are some shortcomings, maybe they'll allow that. So that's the only difference that I see in the SW2 and SW3 rules.
Hmm.
So that is the overall expectation that
Hmm.
there is there in the interviews.
Hmm. Great. So I liked one statement that you said that they are more focused on understanding your thinking process rather than deriving and coming to a most optimal solution. So most of the people have a notion that Google interviews are extremely hard, and you always have to find the most optimal solution. But it finally boils down to your basic concepts and also how you are thinking, right? So one question that I have, Gaurav, is that you mentioned that there can be 4 to 5 coding rounds, right? So is it some type of thing that okay, these 4 to 5 coding rounds will cover different types of data structures and the difficulty level keeps increasing, or it's simply random based on the interviewer?
So basically, there is one. The first round is sometimes the telephonic interview, so that is more of a qualifying round.
Hmm.
So again, I didn't appear in this round because in my case it was skipped. So
Hmm.
basically, as I have heard that this round is more a bit easy than the other rounds.
Hmm.
So and the performance in this round is not considered towards your final decision making. So it is just whether you have qualified or not. It's
Hmm.
just like that. And
Hmm.
apart from that, for the next 3 4 rounds, whatever you have. They are completely random. So, so what exactly happens is that any random interviewer might get assigned to you. Now, the hiring in Google is going more on the team base,
Hmm.
specific to the teams. But back then, when I interviewed, at that time, it was a general hiring. So, when the HR reaches to you, they don't have any team decided for you. So
Hmm.
first you are hired and then you are matched to the team. So at that time, any interviewer from across Google from any of the office can be assigned to you, and it totally depends on them, whether they want to ask medium question or the hard question. So the round after the qualifying round are more of a random kind of rounds.
Hmm, hmm, understood. So, Gaurav, we have now covered the interview process. Moving on to the next part, uh, I think Google is one company which is very open about its interview process. They have the entire interview process mentioned on their website as well. Also, very open as to giving time for preparation, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and there are lots and lots of resources out there, and people keep coming to us what to study, how to study. uh, People asking, do should I solve all leet code 1,000 problems to go into Google, and you see Quora is filled with people asking different types of questions, seemingly confused as to how to approach interview preparation for top companies like Google, right? So uh, coming to you as a mentor who has been mentoring people to do that, how would you suggest, how would you break down the timeline, a roadmap for a preparation for all the viewers who are watching, probably college students in their final placement time or working professionals? How would you break it down, like month by month?
yeah. So I would say that this question is kind of very generic, so it might depend person to person. So
Hmm.
what level of understanding they are currently having, and for example, there is some experienced person. So how much DSL that person has done during the college time and till now. So it totally depends on that. But if we want to form a very general plan, so we can do it in such a way that first of all, the viewers should try to complete their basic concepts for all the data structures. So starting from the array, and then we have stack, queues, and then linked list, then going to the graph, trees. So these are some basic data structures. Apart from that, we have advanced structures also segment tree, suffix tree, tries, and all.
Hmm.
So first thing would be to have a very basic knowledge about these data structures. For example, if I ask about linked list, so it should happen that if I ask you to, okay, create a linked list, add some notes to it, and then traverse through the linked list. So you should be able to write the code properly from the scratch within 5 minutes of time. So you should be so much familiar with these data structures. So for that, I would suggest that there are multiple resources. For example, Geeks for Geeks is the one where you can get to know about the data structures from the scratch. So what I would suggest is that instead of going to the so basically, instead of performing a depth first search, you should try to go through the breadth first. So first, for the first month or maybe first 2 months, you can try to look into all of the data structures and solve the easy problems for them. Usually, what people do is first they take array and then they start solving arrays and go into tougher problems of arrays. Then they go to linked list and so on. So what should you should try to do is that for the first 1 or 2 months, you should go to the array and solve all the basic questions in the array, and then to the stacks, get the basic understanding of a stack, how it is implemented, and what are some very easy questions that you can do using stack. Similarly for the other data structures, and then from after that, you should have an approach which is more towards related to the question rather than going to the specific data structure. So you can go to the lead code and pick up any question, medium question, and then so you should not see that what tags are there and what. And based on that, you should try to figure out yourself that, okay, this is the problem statement, then maybe we can use a stack in it, or maybe we can use queue in it, or maybe graph or anything like that. So using this approach, what happens is that you look at the problem and you try to think about it from the scratch. On the other hand, if you learn the array and then keep on solving the array problems, what happens that that array mentality is stuck, and that kind of helps you in deriving the solution. So if you are not focused on the topic and pick up problems more and more, that
Hmm.
helps you in building the solution from the scratch and having a better mindset, which is what Google looks for. So for the first 1 or 2 months, I would suggest to cover the basics of all the data structures and the algorithms. So there are some popular algorithms also, for example, sorting algorithms. So you should be able to write code for any sorting algorithm. Although that would never be used, because whenever you have to sort some array or array, you will simply use the sort function. But you should be able to understand those algorithms, and they should be able to write their code. So that builds a good practice in your mind.
Hmm.
And after those 1 or 2 months, you should focus more on solving some problems on a regular basis. So, for example, per day, you can target to solve 5 medium problems,
Hmm.
and those problems can be from the varying. So they don't need to be from any particular topic or anything. So you just look at the problem and figure out on your own, like, how to go about this problem. So
Hmm.
that, I think, should be the strategy. So this a targeted study should be done for maybe next 2 3 months, and after that 2 3 months, you would be able to understand that what are the data structures and algorithms you are comfortable with, and what are the topics you are not comfortable with. For
Hmm.
example, maybe you are always, if it is an array problem, you are always able to solve it, but if it is a linear problem, you are not able to solve 9 out of 10 times. So now comes to strengthen those parts. For example, now you look at the questions from the ETS and keep solving them. So
Hmm.
this will help you in getting a more specific question practice from that particular DS or LB. So in
Hmm.
this way, you can keep on doing this for maybe another 1 or 2 months, until you feel more comfortable. So I think that should be a rough plan, and this can be changed depending on how much the person currently knows and what. But roughly, we can follow this plan, and that would definitely lead to, I think, a better understanding of the DSA and general problem solving.
Hmm. Hmm. I think you have given quite a new type of approach and strategy to problem solving and practicing thing. Most platforms simply just start with array and keep going deeper into that. So after a while, after 2 3 months, you are just strong on one topic and you are completely unaware of all other topics. So I
Yeah.
think that is quite a new type of strategy that I have heard, and it seems like very concrete that would help a lot of people.